Ike Perlmutter has sold his entire stake in Disney. That means there is likely no hope left for the company. Let's see why. Many credit Kevin Feige with being the architect of the MCU. This is a blatant lie. Kevin Feige was a late arrival. There would have been an MCU with or without him, and even without him, Phase 1 and certainly the beginning of Phase 2 would have looked almost the same, even if he wasn't there. Without Ike Perlmutter, on the other hand, there wouldn't have been any MCU. There wouldn't have been any Marvel Studios. Hell, there wouldn't have been any of the pre-MCU movies from the X-Men onwards, as he was instrumental in all of that happening. You see, it was him and Arad that brought Marvel back after the bankruptcy, and it was him that sold Marvel to Disney in the first place, becoming one of Disney's largest shareholders in the process. And not only that, it was him that instituted the quality control that kept the MCU on purpose and on mission, right up until Kevin Feige conspired with Bob Iger to get rid of him from active Marvel duties. That's when we got the MCU. No, I kid you not. We broke this down in detail over a series of 2 videos, check them out in the description. Either way, Ike Perlmutter is now gone. The July 23rd Deadline Hollywood story reads, Ike Perlmutter, a major Disney shareholder who lent his shares to support a shakeup on the company's board, has now sold all of them and is moving on, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. When reached through a spokesperson, Perlmutter, who accumulated the holding when he sold Marvel to Disney in 2009 for more than $4 billion, didn't disavow this. Perlmutter had supported Nelson Peltz in a first run at a Disney board seat in 2022, although the activist investor ultimately backed down as Disney began to restructure. But saying he was ultimately unsatisfied by the turnaround efforts and worried about succession, Peltz started his campaign again, seeing it through the second time to a bitter proxy fight that he ultimately lost this spring. The former Marvel executive was ultimately fired by Disney after Bob Iger returned as CEO. Ike and Nelson were working together to try to encourage the board or convince the board to put Nelson on the board, Iger said then. They have a relationship that dates back quite some time. We bought Marvel in 2009. I promised Ike the job that he would continue to run Marvel after that. Not forever, necessarily. Indeed, and again, when Iger fired Perlmutter from Marvel, leaving Kevin Feige to run the business entirely as he saw fit. Kevin Feige ran it into the ground. Moving up to Perlmutter dumping his Disney shares, the article continues. Perlmutter sold his entire position of 25.6 million shares in the months after the vote, said the Wall Street Journal, citing communications with an investment advisor seen by the publication. Specifically, he sold his stake between early April and mid-July at an average price of just under $115. What that means is that just like Nelson Peltz, Ike Perlmutter also sold out in time to cash in a massive profit. Not as big as if he had sold out when the share price was at its peak under Bob Chapek, but bigger than if he had sold out today when Bob Iger's mismanagement is more visible to the world and to the market. The piece then concludes. In a parting dig, he told the publication it's because he doesn't have confidence in management and that he might be a buyer again if it falls to $65 to $75. Disney stock is trading down about 3% today at $91. It's been as high as $124 and as low as $79 over the past year. Okay, there's 2 takeaways from this. First, as of right now in this moment, the Disney company, or more accurately, the Bob Iger company, functionally a stooge of BlackRock, is, pardon my French, fucked. The one sizable shareholder who pushed for a return to sanity and profitability, and more than that, who pushed for board oversight so shareholders would know what the hell Iger's board is doing with their investment, has left the company. That means the takeover is complete. There is no one left to protect the interests of the non-BlackRock, non-Vanguard, and non-State Street affiliated shareholders. Any smaller shareholders who remain are right now but passive passengers on the DEI and ESG Express. Bob Iger has publicly stated that he intends to improve shareholder value and tone back the messaging, and we'll see what kind of restructuring he may have in store for us in the future. But so far, as of now, these are just words and there is no action behind them. The hit Disney just had with Inside Out 2 is a fluke, not a sign of any actual change, as that project is a leftover from years ago. Likewise, the upcoming Deadpool vs. Wolverine is another fluke, a project made by Team Ryan Reynolds, forced through under Bob Chapek, as Kevin Feige actually fought and resisted it. By all early indications, a great movie, but don't get too excited just yet, because after it, Kevin Feige's MCU continues with more lesbian witches and other assorted LGBTQIAP+ representation in Agatha All Along on Disney+, with Ironheart and Ray-Spent Wonder Man coming after that. And of course, on the big screen next up is Black Captain America, which has been filmed 3 times over, bringing the budget and potential floppage up to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny levels. And after that, the absolute D-list of characters rejected by the audience both on the big screen and on Disney Plus alike in the Thunderbolts, Marvel's own Suicide Squad ripoff. In other words, if you're someone who invested in Disney to make a profit on that investment, or if you just want to see Disney return to making family entertainment again, these are pretty dire news, because you just lost your single biggest champion fighting for that. That's the first takeaway, but I said there is another. Let's revisit the end of that piece. In a parting dig, Perlmutter told the publication it's because he doesn't have confidence in management, and that he might be a buyer again if the share price falls to $65 to $75. Disney stock is trading down about 3% today at $91. It's been as high as $124 and as low as $79 over the past year. What that means is that if Bob Iger continues to fail as badly as he has done up until this point, which he probably will, because it's his policies that brought Disney down to this level in the first place, and he is unlikely to fix what he himself broke. Which suggests it's just a matter of time until the share price sinks so low that Disney looks like an irresistible fixer-upper. This is after all how Nelson Peltz was able to profit $1 billion on Disney despite losing out on a board seat twice. He invested when the share price was so low that his involvement alone would bring it up, and then it crashed again after he left. And evidently, Ike Perlmutter cashed out too, just before that crash. So ironically, the best remaining hope for Disney is that Iger continues to run it into the ground even harder, because then maybe the remaining shareholders will be battered enough to allow the possibly returning Perlmutter and Peltz onto the board and return to shareholder primacy, as opposed to the stakeholder autocracy the company is being run as right now. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.